Welcome, this is the Bearded Dentist, and today we are going to be prepping some crowns. So this first tooth here has a very large amalgam filling. Amalgam filling, silver filling, mercury filling, whatever you want to call it. It's a metal filling that, if you can see closely, that bottom cusp there is completely fractured off. There's a very large cavity under there. Right now I am testing to see if the patient's numb by lightly prepping into the top cusp there. Patient's numb, so we get going. So we're removing all the occlusion, all the top enamel off the tooth. Anything that's not perfectly healthy tooth structure also goes. So that filling, any cracks, fractures, any soft dentin or the inner part of the tooth, anything that's been affected by that cavity. When I prep at this angle with a specific burr, it kind of throws water at the camera, so please excuse that. So different burr here, different angle. We're removing the cavity and the staining underneath amalgam. Amalgam is a metal and it does corrode in the mouth, which can stain the tubes of the tooth, the inner tubules. Right now we're cleaning out in between the teeth there. There are cavities on both sides, in between both sides of the teeth there, and we're removing what's left of that really soft material, that whole cusp there. All that was very, very soft tooth structure that all had to go. Pretty much if it's soft, it's been demineralized by bacteria. So large cavity on the back of this tooth, we're removing that as well right now. After this, we're going to hit it with a slow speed. The slow speed is that stainless steel burr here you'll see in a few moments. Um, and what that does is that removes any soft affected dentin, anything that's been affected by bacteria or the cavity, if you will. And but it doesn't remove any hard structure or any healthy tissue. So I always usually run over any large cavity area because it's very hard to see with the naked eye, or even loupes. It's very hard to see the difference. So I hit it with this. That pretty much cleans up everything. And then I scrub my teeth, my preps, with a few cleansers to clean them before putting in what's called a core buildup, which is what we're doing right now. This core buildup is a self-cure but also a light cure. It's called a dual cure. So we cure the outer shell of it and then we let it sit for about 10 minutes to cure all the way up. And that is the final prep afterwards. We did not get to film that, unfortunately. This is another tooth here. We already took the top occlusal table off that tooth because, again, we were spraying the camera and it just wasn't really working out. So this tooth is also going to get a crown because it has cavities on either side of the tooth, in between the teeth next to it. The whole left side or back side of that tooth, you can kind of see some chalkiness along the wall there. There's a very, very large cavity we'll get into. And I choose to do crowns instead of large fillings, especially on these teeth because these are smaller teeth that take a large load. They're called bicuspids and they have two cusps and they really, really like to split down the middle, whether they have fillings or not. But putting larger fillings in these teeth really, really kind of increases that risk of that vertical fracture. So you can see there, that tooth is just kind of really melting away with the burr. There's that large cavity there, and it kind of goes all the way on that lingual wall or the wall that's right next to the tongue there. So as you can see, that silver filling is really, really deep in there, and there's actually some cavity underneath that silver filling, which we'll get to. You never know what those hide because they're metal, and on the x-ray they kind of cause this refractory effect with the x-ray, so it kind of hides what's going on underneath them if there's any radiolucency there. So just checking to make sure we're not getting too deep in the middle of that tooth, and then we're going to hit that with a slow speed as well here, just to make sure we got all that bad, unhealthy tooth structure out. So that's going to happen in a few moments. When we remove silver fillings, we always have a high volume suction there. Because we're basically aerosolizing the mercury. There is mercury in them. We're basically aerosolizing that, and to reduce exposure to the patient and ourselves, we always use a high volume suction during that. So this is that slow speed there. We're getting, that's way down deep right under that silver filling. So all that was bad tissue that needed to come out. And then here we have the buildup. We're going to squeeze that in. This is kind of one of my favorite parts, just ice cream coning that in there. Um, and then we cure that with a blue light. We hit that for 20 seconds, and again, that'll cure kind of the outer shell. This stuff's pretty opaque, and it doesn't really cure all the way down, especially when it's several millimeters deep. So letting it sit and making sure it cures all the way through is very essential. So now we're going to prep the axial wall. I do want to say that I have a new camera that's coming in, or it already came in today, but I filmed this before that. This camera has a bunch of broken lights on it because it's like 10 years old. So that's why it kind of looks a little dark and dingy here, but the new camera is fantastic and it's 1080p HD quality, so I'm really excited about that. But what we're doing right now is we're prepping around the tooth. Um, Basically, I explain crowns kind of like a sand castle with a bucket. If you fill a bucket with sand and then you flip it over and you stick it on the ground and you pull the bucket off, what's that sand castle underneath there is kind of like the remaining tooth structure, and you imagine the bucket like a crown, except we're basically going backwards and we're putting that crown or that bucket back over it, and that's holding all that tooth structure in, keeping it nice and safe and keeping it from fracturing. So here's the final prep. Premolars always kind of look a little bit wonky because they're all shaped oddly. This one's pretty all right. Pretty happy with it. But hey guys, that was episode number 2. I'll have more coming. I really appreciate you guys watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Thank you.